No, like I can do it in post. And besides, your background's iconic at this point. You've made all the rounds. You've been on Heavy Underground Farm Report. Who else have you been on? You've been all over.
Well, you got to do the PR rounds, brother. You got to do the PR rounds.
When are you on Jimmy Fallon?
Never. I in a dream, I would be on Eddie Trunk, which we all hate, but we know that won't happen.
I don't hate him. I need to clarify. I don't hate him. I just have no respect for him. He's been a non-entity ever since he was a VH1 dude. I'm like,
I won't go that.
I'm talking for me.
Yeah.
I've never paid attention to Eddie Trunk. I
watched that metal show, so I liked it. And the last season, Scott, he played Scorpion Child, Rival Sons, and Crowbot, all bands that I liked. And I actually came up to him, Scott. You know he lives here, right? Like half the time.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I get to talk to him. He's not really that social, as you can guess, with people like me. And I came up to him between sets, which that allowed him to not have his earbuds in, which is his current way of doing things. And I said, hey, I remember your last season, you played some really good newer bands at the time. And I brought that up to him, and I brought up Rival Sons, Crowbot, Scorpion Child. And I said, Scorpion Child just played here. He goes, what? They're still together? I didn't know. And I go, yeah, they played my festival I do here in town, and I do it here. And he was just miffed. You know what I mean? Like, he was here, but it's just, I don't have the money probably to pay him. I haven't even asked. Like literally, it would get out the thousands and thousands of people on the show if I paid him. Right, because he could be the host. But, these tickets are not cheap for each night, Scott. I mean, they're like, $50. And for his fans, they don't know who the fuck any of these bands are. Some of them would probably none of them would come. You know what I mean? So it's just not worth it.
I think that is changing a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on his page. And there are people that, like me, complain. They complain, and I kind of add on that he just isn't well-versed or in tune with anything new, and his stuff is getting old. He's doing the same topics a lot. And so that's really the sad part, is the opportunity to grow our music. And I mean our music as in rock and roll in America. Him and Jose Mangan, probably the two biggest voices, want nothing at all to do with it. Jose is branded in with Sirius XM, which created their own brand of heavy rock.
All that's well and good.
Yeah,
I deal with realities. And here's a reality that I need to throw at you.
Yeah.
2 years ago, there was only one Stoner Dune channel, and that's Billy Goat and the amazing Doomed and Stoned. Right?
Oh, there were shows.
Oh, no, shows. I'm talking channels dedicated to Stoner Dune. Not the guys, and I love them, that post the songs and they post the albums. I'm talking.
There was a couple shows. I mean,
who else?
Was it Monster Riff or something?
No, I own Monster Riff. I guarantee. There's no Monster Riff channel.
There was a couple, but yeah, you're right. And obviously, Doomed and Stoned, he life has just been challenging. I got froggy
there for a minute, didn't I? I bought Monster Riff. Don't argue with me.
And I knew that. Well, I mean, there was some other hour of riff or something.
Oh, yeah,
that was very regular.
And you have Does It Doom, which is the pedals and the effects.
Yeah.
But now you have Clean and Sober Stoner, you have Heavy Underground Farm Report, you have Monuments in Ruin, You've got Doob Solo doing. I'm not sure if she's doing solo stuff or just doing the stoned, but we're growing, and it's like this, like athlete's foot. It starts with one yeast, one little thing, and I know, horrible is the best I can think of,
but I hear what you're saying, and I agree.
It starts with one, and so I mean, take the Castle Rat scenario right now, where they brought in $137,000 through Kickstarter. You have to understand that's $3,000
for that.
There's okay. Go ahead.
I will look at things differently as you on this stuff, my friend.
Right. So what's the jaded John Gist perception on Castle Rat?
It's more, perception based on why they're doing so well.
Okay.
Because it's not the music to me. I think the music's fine. It's good, but it's all about it fits a good model of what people visualize. And with the female singers it's almost overboard right now. And she's hot and it's provocative and they have some theater behind them, which is cool. That helps get women in even more. And of course, a bunch of horny old men. But that's...
Oh, please. Time out.
I dismiss it a little bit, but I think
out.
Cool.
Look, I agree with everything you said. I can't argue with anything you just said.
That's what...
But that's a very narrow, so that's a narrow piece of the pie. I think having seen them live, these are pro caliber, like, oh my effing God.
And I'd love to see them. They're not going to play here.
That rhythm section is so tight. The guitar playing is flawless and effortless. And
I would like to see for myself, Scott.
The cheese factor's there, but there's also a need for rock and roll to get a little bit dangerous again.
I agree. Let me close this.
I'm keeping this part in. So, Castle Rat, $137,000 raised. That is $3,000 away from the record of a Kickstarter for a metal album.
Why do you think that happened?
Because they have that rabid of a fan base. Is part of it. I hope
never
to God.
Heard of them in my life until this year, like mid this year, and I never even heard a song from them until maybe a few months ago. But that's more my fault.
So they appeal to Gen Z, millennials, maybe some Gen A stuff going on. When I discovered Castle Rat, it was totally by accident. I was on Instagram and I saw this hot redhead making jewelry, and it was kind of heavy metal jewelry. So I watched the next one and she's making the props. She's making the bats.
Yeah.
The bats and the rats for the show. And it was so, I couldn't stop watching. And then I met, Todd White over at King Volume, and he mentions Castle Rat, and then I'm talking to Blake Carrera, and he's all about Castle Rat. Mm-hmm. So I started really, really following Riley and how they leverage TikTok and Instagram and built up a following. And then Todd White, come on, Todd White he's a very shrewd marketer.
I have no idea who that is.
He's the owner of King Volume.
Oh,
so Castle Rat is tapping into the young subset that we desperately need.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, it has a highly look. Castle Rat appeals to boomers, millennials, everybody, because there is such a Rocky Horror Picture Show element to that show. It is campy, it is schlocky, but to be a Desert Fest with a few hundred people, and they had that. I mean, we are all shouting now and forever. The dude behind me, when Riley dies, he literally is going, "Oh fuck, man, that sucks," and then the whole place erupts when she.
There's that much theater, huh?
Oh, look. When I watch old Hawkwind, I'm embarrassed because it's experimental theater. It's like they're wearing the girls are wearing the gold body paint, just like the green girl from Star Trek. I watch it and it's like, Oh, Castle Rat does it. Castle Rat is closer to Alice Cooper. And I think to a lesser, and this is one, nobody's called me on it, but serious Mott the Hoople vibes. Serious
What?
Mott the Hoople.
Yeah.
The guitar work.
Familiar, quite frankly. So I know they're old, but I'm familiar with that band other than a song or two, maybe.
Yeah, All the Young Dudes.
Yeah. Which I always thought was Dave Bowie.
Well, because David Bowie wrote that for them and he produced it for them.
Like it sounded like him singing even. It's kind of funny. I remember when Bruce Dickinson redid that song.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
It was a long time ago. I mean, listen, I'm not against Castle. I just don't know a lot about them. They just announced a tour headlining, so everything you're saying obviously makes sense. But I'd rather experience something before raving about it. And music-wise, it's cool, but it's not, in my top whatever.
Number one album for me. Number one album for the year.
Well, you're all in.
I'm invested. I'm invested.
You, but not everyone. A lot of people don't know anything about them still. Hey, they'd be interesting. I know the guy who books them, Nathan, pretty well. Hell, I should feel it out for one of my Planet Is Rocks, but they priced themselves right out of my little festival. And that's the way these festivals, and we can talk about that in the show or whatever, but there's really only one festival that really has the backing of the big four, because there's really only four main Stoner Doom festivals in the country now that do it every year.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Doom,
and only
Stoner, the Doom Fest in Maryland Doom Fest, Ripple Music, Ripple, Texas, Planet Desert Rock.
And Desert Fest, New York.
Desert Fest, New York. Could we possibly add Doomed and Stoned in Ohio?
No, not yet. How many years have they done it? They didn't even do it a couple of years ago. So
I don't know. I'm just
it's very small. I mean, listen, I want more because I think regionally we need more. I mean, I'm not one of these cats. If you notice, I will support Ripple Fest all the time. I mean, I'm tied at the hips with Todd, obviously with Ripple, which really doesn't have much to do with it other than letting the name Ripple. But me and Ryan go back from the beginning, and I've marketed and done ads for them. And I feel like brothers in arms, and he's going to be coming to him and his brother are coming to my festival. I said, dude, it's free. Come on, do it. You hook me up every year. Come experience one. And, I know he's going to network and meet. I mean, he's booking a lot of bands that I've booked in the past. And I'm going to be doing some of the same. I've been booking bands and shows for a little bit longer than Ripple Fest, And so his and I taste are pretty similar. He goes a little bit bigger, broader. But Castle Rat, I would love to, potentially. I think but those bands, none of us can afford it besides Desert Fest New York, really, who has just a lot of backers. That's very, very, very good money. And they lose every year still.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not what investors and people that, this isn't philanthropy. So,
Well, but you say that, but in all honesty, for the past 20 years, it's all been philanthropy. I don't think we've actually seen
good for a while.
Okay.
Did you ever go to that, Scott?
No.
It was amazing.
No.
Why didn't you go?
I knew. To which one?
Psycho Vegas.
No, I've never been to Psycho Vegas.
It was amazing. It really was. The first, pretty much every year. I mean, the last year, they just went overboard. They booked stuff that they reached on. Like for 2 years, they booked like a rapper thing, which from a business standpoint didn't make any sense because they were hoping. I mean, you have to hope statistically that more people will buy a ticket because of them.
Right.
And I don't think that was the case. I mean, they lost a lot of money this last one. And, you know, if that rapper or that group cost $100,000, which makes me pee in my pants just thinking about it. There's no way they got single day tickets for that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do.
I mean, if there was a $1,000 ticket, I doubt they would sell 100, you know, I mean, whatever, you get the case. $100 ticket, I doubt they sold 1,000 tickets. So, but man, those early years, they really brought together a great amalgamation of stoner doom, psych, some eclectic metal, and some legacy in there as well. I mean, Alice Cooper, Blue Oyster Cult, you know, Danzig later on, which I'm sure cost shit tons, you know, but it was an amazing thing. But and that inspired me in some ways to do something, but obviously nothing like that in many ways. So,
okay.
Yeah.
The only point I'm making is after being actively involved for the past, let's say, I'll be generous, I've been actively involved in the scene for 8 years. My site, the ownership of Monster Riff. Anyway, that's all within the past 3 years. But right now, there seems to be an optimism, an undercurrent of optimism of people actually starting to make money. And I think AI is simply going to help. I think that people are getting tired, like seriously tired, not only of healthcare insurance and that whole racket. People are getting tired of artificially generated crap. Not the majority. We just need 1% of popular culture to pay attention to us, and we're as big as Seattle. We just need 1%. Yeah. I think we're getting that. Plus, we have a tendency.
Optimism.
You know, you and I just committed a sin that we never should. Everything we were talking about was North American based. Once you open that up to Europe, it's a whole different scene.
That's a different culture.
It's a different, but it's still the same. This is still the same money. It's
but they're not as pop culture tinted and tainted as we are. We've had a lot of manipulation within our 3 record labels, so it just follow the basic oligarchy system kind of thing. And when you have those 3 labels controlling almost everything on the radio and every hit that's played and funded through radio programming and everything else, it's the deck stacked against rock and roll in America as the shift is fully hip hop and rap. But what is great is I'm on Reddit a good amount now, Scott. On a couple.
I am too. It's crazy. Like,
are you on Stoner, the Stoner one and the Doom one, and a few of those?
I'm on Stoner Rock. Like, I'm a boomer, so I'm like naturally allergic to Reddit. It scares me, to be honest. But I've had such great interaction with the Our Stoner Rock group that plus I have limited, any moment that I'm focusing on something simply because of how many logs we have in the fire. But so I'm on there for my counseling professionally. Reddit's been a godsend for me as a teacher and a clinical supervisor. Stoner Rock is awesome. You were making a point on that.
Yeah, so I'm on there particularly this last year or so with on the Stoner one, the Doom one. Those are the 2 most active. There's a Desert Rock one, and there's a Stoner Metal one that actually is all right. But the Stoner and the Doom are the big ones. And I'm encouraged, as I am when I'm on the King Buffalo page on Facebook that Bill Curls recently joined Doom Charts upon my recommendation. Those pages, I'm seeing people coming into the fold and they're getting blown away by the depth of what else is out there. And that's what we all, many of us that care and have some visualization, futuristic idealism, we'll say, about this. We like seeing that because we know in a face-to-face world, for me at least in Vegas, very few will hop into this rabbit hole. Very few here in Vegas. We have a pitiful scene when it comes to people taking a chance. A lot of them were very octane, which is FM, XM Sirius thing. That new heavy rock style, which is more derived not of blues and jazz based, but more from the new metal family tree. They're just really into it, and it's hard to get that group ever to consider the organic side of heavy rock. And then you got, I go to Count's Vamp, which is one of the best rock places in the entire country. I mean, you'll see.
I will.
It's comfy, the sound system and everything else. But the people who regularly go there are very classic rock / I would say 80s driven more than anything. And the hair metal thing is a real deal, like right up Eddie Trunk's thing. And of course, that involves more women because of that, because hair metal was clearly more directed towards broadening the audience. And when they broadened the audience and made everything so wimpy and melodic, people like me, they were angsty, 18, 19, 20-year-olds and 21 in college, we're out of here. I mean, like I stuck with Metallica and I stuck with Maiden, I stuck with Dio until he started rotating guitarists around and just wasn't good after Vivian Campbell. But that's why I got into alternative rock. I got into college rock / alternative rock, which was U2, REM, Sonic Youth, Pixies, Guadalcanal Diary. But man, once Alice in Chains and Soundgarden came in, it gave me that, that ferocity, that energy, that drive of aggressiveness that a young man has many times, or at least back then. And so I look at what's going on now, and I have hopes for that. Maybe more that we can continue to tap into Gen X and Gen Y, because we're seeing more of us falling down that rabbit hole finally. Like they're just so sick of the same old stuff. So we agree. Yeah, and we hope that I love your view on Castle Rat, that it can bring in these younger generations, and it's doing it the old fashioned style. It's through sex, and it's through this grandiose theater action, which I think at times we're really missing in rock and roll, like you said. Even Sleep Token, which I'm not into, but they're a metal band that really kicked it in this last few years. They tap into that same aura. Ghost, tremendously theatrical. Women love that band. I have so many friends, because I hang out with a lot of women at shows. They're nice enough to support some of them. My photographers, Leah Burlington, which was a great photographer here in Vegas for years. She's a massive fan of them. You know what I mean? Like she likes Bijou Bourget or whatever the fuck, that super heavy stuff also, but Ghost for her taps into this.
Dimmu Borgir? Were you trying to say Dimmu Borgir?
Yeah, I never can remember that name. It's such a weird name. Like, why is it that name? But
it's been that name for 20 years, dude.
I don't even know the band hardly. I actually watched them at Psycho because of her. But we're just in this ever-growing thing that will come out of the underground for sure. Has to come from the underground, because the big labels have their own agenda, their own thing, and they follow more than they lead. That's the truth. And that's what grunge did, right? You think about Soundgarden and Nirvana. I mean, Nirvana was on Sub Pop. And honestly, I didn't even know the first album by Nirvana. I didn't know it.
Bleach.
I went back, obviously,
Yeah.
but I didn't know it. I never heard of them. But I heard about Alice in Chains because of MTV. I heard about Soundgarden through the college station, and then BMG CD Club. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
I got it based on the description, and that's what a lot of us Gen Xers did. Is we bought things on description or the label on a record, like the little thing that says "for fans of." It's funny. We gamble with music. Some, I think Gen X and probably some later, boomers and then some Y. We got our music in a different way. And so, and then Soundgarden got their song on the video, got their video out, and the rest.
I think you're missing the thing that launched that whole thing, and I'm surprised. There's this little movie called Singles.
Of course.
That Cameron Crowe did. That soundtrack
after those were going.
That soundtrack is what brought me in and brought, I think, the majority. Like, nobody knew who Screaming Trees was. Nobody knew who Smashing Pumpkin was until that soundtrack. That soundtrack.
Pumpkin's Gish was absolutely one of my college go-to albums. I look at
High Five. That's their best album. I love that album. It's so iconic. It's so heavy and aggressive and new and I know
this spacious kind of feel to it as well.
Yeah.
Riffing. Yeah. Dude, Singles is iconic. For some of us, we were already in the know on all those bands, but that packaged together for us, Gen Xers, that was us.
And this boomer loved watching it. Like, I was just a few years too old, right? I just missed it. It's like the Breakfast Club. I just missed that era. I'm in Generation Jones. Yeah. So I'm in between the two. Singles was what really catapulted beyond people like you and me, beyond music fans.
I agree.
It took it and went, oh, now girls are going to see this love, this romantic comedy thing. Yeah. And they get to hear a little bit of Mudhoney and a little bit of, all these bands. Allison.
Like, they had scenes where they're at a show. I'll never forget that scene with Alice in Chains in the background.
Ritual by Soundgarden. All of a sudden, you have Chris Cornell, his shirt's off, his hair. We hadn't seen that shit in like 20 years, man. And there's Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
Not like that. Not like that.
Their song, Outshine, was,
it was
all
popular
that as well.
But that became number one like a year after it was released was when it really hit the charts. That and
it was still
Love.
4 singles. But in it, him flying around with his hair and everything else.
All of a sudden we had our own Robert Plant. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was cool, and it was an unbelievable feeling when Nirvana did what it did. When I first got here and I first started doing shows and meeting a lot of people at Counts Vamped, there were a lot of them were just so anti grunge because they held grunge against because it quote unquote killed their thing. And Corey Coker, which is Danny Coker's wife, she's the one that does most of the show curation there. I would bring it up to her and she just hated it, but her doing shows, and then eventually, at times, some of these cover bands were playing songs like from Alice in Chains or Soundgarden or even Pearl Jam. And all once you start going, they're good rock songs. You know what I mean? That's what people have to figure out. But when there's this battle, whether it's politics or whether it's music, there's this thing that people have a pride in what they feel is their family, which was for a lot was that hair metal era. I mean, I'm lucky to have gone to high school during the true peak of heavy metal when, radio and MTV and normal people liked metal. You know what I mean? The peak of Priest and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Metallica and Dio and Dokken and Rat. And
don't forget Celtic Frost and Cherry Orchards.
I don't even know who that is.
No, Celtic Frost, their song Cherry Orchards. Huge Celtic Frost fan.
Yeah.
You're going to get hate mail. Let me dial it down. Celtic Frost is the precursor to death metal, black metal, all the extreme
experimental. It never appealed to me. Metallica, from the very beginning, Kill 'Em All, got it at the lunch table. And I was like, at first when I heard it, I was like, weird. But I played it again.
Okay.
And I kept playing it. And next thing you know, I was so into Hit the Lights, so into Four Horsemen. I'm just like, in Seek and Destroy and No Remorse. I mean, it was just like, oh, man, this is awesome.
And I'm the opposite. So I was really into Metallica for about 2 seconds. And then I heard Celtic Frost, Into the Pandemonium. And I went, no. That's elevator music. It's nice. It's trebly. It's cute. They're these great looking guys, James Hetfield with this. And like, then there's Celtic Frost. And it was like, oh, no. That's my world. What I think one of the reasons I'm optimistic about Stoner Doom is it is completely agnostic nowadays. It will take any influence whatsoever. If the band is into it, they're going to bring in progressive elements like King Buffalo and Elder do. They'll bring in black metal influences like King Bastard does. And so... yeah, I'm just waiting for the stoner hip hop to hit to where you. Oh, come on, man! I love. I will support if you're out there. If you're in a stoner hip hop band, if you've got dank riffs,
you just want to like everything now. I don't.
My generation hates everything, right?
Very picky about what I like.
I'm in love. I love the young generations. I'm a complete fan of Gen Z. I think they're smarter, they're more intelligent. They've got it more together than my generation ever did. Plus, they had to put up with our bullshit. Come on, man. Look what we've given them.
I'm not getting in all that shit. No way.
Okay, we have a festival coming up. We only have two and a half weeks. It'll be roughly 2 weeks from this. I'm pumped. I see so many